I will tell you, in the 20-plus years that I have had the privilege to work in pulmonary rehab, the greatest of which have been the last several with Christina, I admire all that you do in promoting your well-being, and we both are so very proud of all of your accomplishments. And I will tell you, it does not go unnoticed. We recognize your accomplishment as being simply either making the phone call to get in touch with us or walking in the door for that first appointment. It takes a great deal of courage, and we're all very, very proud of you. And last but not least, and I will tell you that Russell did not pay me to say this, thank you for keeping all of this going, and we appreciate the support you supply to your patients. To your friends, thank you.
About exercise. We strongly believe in that as well at Anthem Caremore, and we actually have gyms attached to all of our care centers, and it sounds like they would be, perfect for what you're prescribing or recommending, because actually we have no treadmills. Walking is great, but we're worried about falling, so everything's either sitting down, and it's all air pressure. So, and we also have either a kinesiologist or a college-educated, 4-year educated person there, personal trainer, and they will individualize your plan for exercise, and they check with your doctor to okay it. So they may be able to go in conjunction with what you're doing in the pulmonary rehab. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had mentioned before the importance of education. Teresa was so incredibly kind, and she is donating for anyone that is interested. The Pulmonary Paper she prescribes to. Anyone that may be interested, there'll be copies up here by the packet on pulmonary fibrosis that Russell had mentioned. Hey, lady, you're on.
Okay. I'm glad I could be here with y'all today. I was talking with the patients before coming down here, and as much as you all know me and know how I like to cut up and conversate in rehab, I get very nervous speaking in public. But I'm glad to be here, and I want to support Russell and Breath Matters, and because I really believe in what you all do. A thing that I and Kris and I actually talked a lot about in the last few months is the big oxygen thing, the big oxygen issue that we see patients, brand new patients coming in. And a lot of the times we're finding that they're not wearing oxygen already, and we're finding that they have a need for oxygen. They're very worried about starting, using it with exercise. And like Kris said, the number one question I'm getting is, will I become addicted to it? Or I used to use it, they'll say, I used to use it, but I weaned myself off of it. And I wanted to just kind of touch on some, topics in regards to oxygen that I felt would be, important for you all to know. And in doing so, I did some research online, and there are like tons of handouts on it. But the number one thing and the number one concern is, will I be addicted to it? And when I found this one handout, which I did make some copies of, they answered it great when it says, to quote one of the pioneers in oxygen therapy, Thomas Petty, and the answer to this question is an empathetic no. You will not become addicted to oxygen. It does not occur. And in fact, what they said, if anything, using oxygen will help stabilize your condition, which may prevent increased use of oxygen later. And so, whether or not you've been prescribed for oxygen prior to coming to pulmonary rehab, or we identify that you have a need for oxygen with exertion, you should use it as prescribed, for sure. And not try to wean yourself off of it unless the doctor or your respiratory therapist or your home care is identifying that you have less of a need for it. Now, a lot of patients say, well, if I go on oxygen, will I ever be able to come off? And it kind of depends on your situation. If you were prescribed it initially for a flare-up, if you had a pneumonia or something like that, you know, there's a chance that you can decrease your oxygen use or perhaps come off of the oxygen. Don't wean it off yourself. Let your healthcare provider or your doctor help you with that transition. But if you have a need for a chronic condition, which many of you have, the odds of going off of it completely are little. And the thing is because you need to use it in order to, what we say in a rehab, protect your heart. And they say, well, what's that going to do to my heart? Well, if you don't have enough oxygen, it causes your heart to work harder, beat stronger. And it enlarges the heart, which isn't good for the body. You really want it the size, you know, it is. You don't want it to become enlarged from lack of oxygen. And so, for those that say, you know, how can I tell my oxygen's good? You know, I feel great, and I don't think I need that. There's, you know, a way that we check it with the pulse ox that, like Kris mentioned, is a great home tool. They used to be hundreds of dollars. In fact, the ones we use in rehab are quite expensive. But the ones that they have that you can get from Walgreens, Walmart, and their like pharmacy section are running about $40. And I know $40 to everybody is not the same, but it's a great investment if you have a need for oxygen to be able to kind of, you know, give yourself a quick, painless test to see how am I doing versus trying to, you know, figure it out for yourself without really having a good number. Some of the things that you can identify if you're, you know, if you're having a low oxygen, some people say, well, you know, I'll become short of breath, or, you know, I can see that my nail beds will get kind of purple, or I can tell my heart starts to race, so then I know I need my oxygen. Well, not everybody has those same symptoms. Some people say that they feel normal, and then when we look at the numbers, they have a greater need for oxygen than they really thought. So the pulse ox is really great. I mean, for $40, you get, you know, a great medical tool to really give you an idea of how well you're doing. And like Kris and I say, with exertion, you want to stay, you know, 90% and above. And when I say exertion, it doesn't mean just when you're in rehab. If we're identifying you have a need for oxygen with exertion, that means on the walk up to rehab too. And then on the walk down from rehab to your car. I know we're close to the front door, as close as we can be, but that walk a lot of times provides our patients with an oxygen deficit when they come in the door, that they kind of have to regain their levels once they get the oxygen on in rehab. And it puts you at a deficit versus starting out, you know, with a high amount of oxygen prior to exercise. So you don't really want to start with a deficit. You want to come in well oxygenated, even if you still feel, make sure it still feels short of breath. It won't because your oxygen is too low. So, you know, keep in mind that if you need it for exertion in rehab, it may not be a bad idea to get it for when that walk into the gym or that walk into rehab for those types of things. So, you know, if you get prescribed the oxygen and you want to use it at the times the doctor says you should use it. So if they say you only need it for sleep, then only use it for sleep, unless you talk it over with your healthcare provider, your doctor. And then it says, studies show that using oxygen prescribed will result in longer life and improved quality of life. One of the other things I wanted to bring up that I've kind of made my little goal for everybody that comes in and gets assessed with me is if they're using oxygen, is it working for to keep your quality of life the way you want it to be? Let's say if you've got grandkids out of town and you want to travel to see them, are you able to go and do that without a whole lot of hassle and haggle? Because I know that you guys are exercising and you're getting stronger, but then to do what? To do the things you love. And a lot of times it's traveling, a lot of times it's going shopping, a lot of times it's spending spending time with family. So if you need oxygen, you need to have the best device that allows you to do those things. And there is a variety of things out there. There are, small canisters, which a lot of you use. And one of the things that we're finding that our patients are transitioning to a lot of times now are portable concentrators. And there are so many out there. And then we've seen few that have 8-hour batteries, 4-hour batteries, and so I would go with what Kris says and do your research when it comes to the oxygen, because you don't want that to really hinder you from doing the things that you love. You don't want it to hold yourself back. So definitely look into the different types of devices, and if your home care provider can't provide them to you, then do your research on who can provide the things that you like and that you think will benefit you. Not all of them are, for everybody. Some of them, don't have continuous flow. Some of them, the batteries get eaten up pretty quickly. So do your research if you decide to convert to something different, but also make sure you're picking the device that works best for your lifestyle. Yes, Ms. Jean.
Christina, I tried that because I do travel a lot to see my children.
Yeah.
And all I have is those tanks.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely no use when you're, doing something.
Right.
And I wanted to get the portable one.
Yeah.
And of course with Medicare, I can't do it till March. So and nobody will really rent them to you for that time. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with Medicare.
Yeah. There's go ahead.
There is a place that rents them. My mom, when we travel, it's a respiratory company here in Richmond, and we go and get her the portable one when we're going to travel, especially airlines, because airlines don't like you taking their stuff home, So there is a place here in Richmond that rents out, I think they have 2 or 3 of them now, portable. Like if you're going to travel plane, or you're going to go for on a
You don't know the name of it?
Medicare rents.
I want to guess it's Richmond Respiratory or
There's so many home care companies in Richmond that you really need to check to see which ones will provide that service to you. Not only just home care companies, but there's national companies now that some of the manufacturers are renting their concentrators or through health insurance directly to the patient. So kind of bypassing the local home care company. So there's all kinds of options. So if you need some just ideas, you always can call Gina.
Yeah,
and we'll
I
bounce
tried.
some ideas
I
off
was
you.
even going to just pay the rental myself without going through Medicare.
Right, but don't let it be the fact that they just can't get it for you, because there's so many other places that you can obtain them from. Yeah.
What was the name of this $40 object?
Pulse oximeter. Pulse oximeter, O-X-I-M-E-T-E-R, yeah, pulse oximeter. Buddy's got one, they're really nice, and they fit in the pocket pretty easy. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, I bought one of those for a trip that I went on.
Yeah.
And just suggested that.
Yeah.
And at CVS, you get coupons for like 25% off. And
Oh, that's
things like
nice.
that. So it was like hardly anything. By the
Oh, wow, she said she used a 25% off coupon at CVS and got her pulse ox, so that's a $10 save right there, that's great.